The Galactic Council chamber had witnessed wars, first contacts, and the collapse of empires. But it had never known silence like this. 47 representatives, species that measured time in millennia and power in star systems, sat frozen as the holographic display rotated slowly above the central dais. Red indicators pulsed along the outer spiral of known space. The Vex Swarm had crossed the final boundary. "Well," said Grand Ambassador Zeloth at last, his crystalline mandibles clicking with dry irony, "this is inconvenient." No one laughed. The Vex were not conquerors. They were not diplomats. They were not even truly enemies. They were a process. Where they passed, planets became dust, stations became raw matter, and stars dimmed as entire systems were stripped and recycled into more of the same relentless machines. They did not negotiate. They did not hate. They consumed. I shifted in my seat, my translator implant humming softly against my thoughts. I was Trazak of the Quillian Federation, third ranked, expendable, and currently watching the end of everything I knew approach at sublight speed. "Ambassador Zura," Prime Counselor Norix said, her upper limbs twitching in a way that betrayed fear despite her composed tone. "Status of our defenses." Zura stood. Her bioluminescent skin flickered in patterns associated with grief. "We have engaged the Vex at 7 fronts," she said. 83% of our capital fleet is gone. Projections place our chance of halting their primary force at 12%. A hollow sound escaped Ambassador Plex. 12%, he repeated. "I remember when our greatest concern was trade disputes." "This is not the time," Ambassador Krex snapped, though his voice lacked conviction. "We need solutions." Suggestions followed. Desperate, recycled, useless. Negotiate, hide, deploy theoretical weapons that had never worked before. Each proposal collapsed under its own impossibility. Then a quiet voice spoke. "We could ask the humans." The chamber erupted. Outrage, fear, disbelief. The humans, isolated, quarantined, marked with warning beacons 2 centuries earlier. A species deemed too volatile, too aggressive, too unpredictable to safely integrate. "Ask them?" Krex hissed. "Why not accelerate our extinction?" "Because," the ancient ambassador Ikna replied calmly, "they are very good at surviving." Silence returned, this time uneasy. Humans were different. Most civilizations advanced in careful steps. Humans leapt. They went from atmospheric flight to lunar landings in a single lifetime. From atomic theory to weapons and reactors before their species agreed on how to govern itself. They fought wars that scarred their own planet, and then wrote music, art, and stories so powerful they moved beings with no shared biology. They were dangerous. But perhaps danger was exactly what we needed. I was assigned to the delegation, not because I was important, because I wasn't. Our ship exited faster than light at the edge of the Sol system, passing the ancient warning beacon still broadcasting in thousands of languages. "Quarantine species. Do not approach." "Ironic," the captain muttered. "Those were meant to protect us." Mars came into view, scarred, settled, alive. The human response was immediate. Not just warships, but miners, engineers, scientists, civilian vessels repurposed overnight. I watched from the flagship as their fleet assembled with impossible speed. "You argue while you mobilize?" I asked Admiral Reyes, the fleet commander. She laughed softly. "Efficiency." At Centauri Hub, where the last Allied forces held the line, the Vex arrived. And humans did not fight like anyone else. They scattered. They probed. They observed. They disrupted Vex coordination, dismantled communication nodes invisible to standard sensors, and then did something unthinkable. They began recycling the enemy mid-battle. Captured Vex matter was broken down and rebuilt into weapons that the swarm's own defenses failed to recognize as hostile. The largest Vex world ships advanced anyway. Then the humans sent scientists, not soldiers, devices attached to the massive entities, injecting altered patterns, confusion, contradiction, self-conflict. The swarm turned on itself. It was horrifying, and it worked. 6 hours later, the battle was over. The galaxy still existed. Weeks later, I stood again in the council chamber. This time, a human ambassador stood beside me. The Sol system quarantine is lifted, Prime Counselor Norix declared. Humanity is recognized as a full member of the galactic community. Applause echoed, real, unrestrained. As we departed, I asked the human ambassador a question that had haunted me since the battle. Why help us after we isolated you? He considered. Because ignoring problems doesn't make them disappear, he said. And because we'd rather be dangerous allies than silent strangers. As Earth filled the viewport ahead, I understood the truth the galaxy had nearly learned too late. The most dangerous species was never the one we quarantined. It was the one we refused to understand.